More and more phones are losing headphone jack, and now Samsung has joined with its top tier phone, uh, Note 10, to the club of headphone jackless phones. I think this is going to be the trend, but I think people are missing something. So they are asking, does it have a headphone jack or not? But that's actually not the question. Why is it removed? That's also what people are asking. But more importantly, what is it replaced with? Is the right question. Those companies who are removing the headphone jack, are they giving us more durability? Are they giving us better or straightforward water resistance and IP ratings? Or are they just doing it for an increase in battery size, which is going to be translated into a couple of minutes of extra usage? More sturdy design, better wireless reception, are they giving us that? So that's actually the question. If you are removing it, saying that there's a wireless alternative and or there's a dongle alternative, yeah, but that's still not ideal compared to just straightforward, using the headphone jack for your headphones. Um, are we gaining something? We are losing it, but is it a trade? Are we gaining something, or is it just some cost-cutting, lazy design by companies? Because if it is this latest, then we are definitely losing something, and this is terrible. But if a company is actually willing to give something to the customers, they can offer any of these replacements, any of these better wireless reception, or better or just straightforward water resistance in return. We are not seeing it much. There is one thing that the companies could have offered. I don't know if there is any phone that has that. I guess one of the newest gaming phones has this second port, but I think it's only for accessories. What if companies removed the headphone jack but introduced another USB-C port? Nobody is really asking for something like this. Nobody is really talking about it. And I'm surprised because that would have been great. So you remember what people are saying? They're saying that I cannot charge the phone and listen to music via headphones if you remove the headphone jack. For the first time on this phone, when I was on the road, I did that. I was both charging it and listening to music to it, and it was perfectly fine. So I'm glad I have one of those phones, which is the 2.5 years old phone. But what if it didn't have a headphone jack but had another USB port for charging and for data, ideally, but at least for charging and for connectivity to a headphone. Those two ports, either they can be both at the bottom or one can be on the top side, the other one at the bottom side. I think one of those gaming phones has it one bottom and one at the side so that you can actually insert accessories there, but I don't think you can charge the phone with the second one or do any data transfer. So I think it's a complicated design. I mean, I have a Surface Go which is a tablet and only has one USB Type-C port, so probably it's not very easy to do it for something as small as a phone to have two Type-C same ports. You don't have to, however, do the exact same thing. One of them can be USB 3.0, and many phones right now are actually USB 2.0 still. They still haven't, it's amazing, right? They still haven't made the technological jump to the latest USB version. But one of them can be for charging, data transfer, and or listening to music. The other one might be for charging and data transfer, but not for music, and or something like that. You can basically divide those two things into those two ports, and then suddenly you are not losing a headphone jack, but you are actually gaining some very important functionality, right? Some productivity, but nobody is doing it. So that's actually a missed opportunity. You know, we are talking about gaming phones that have now this extra fan that has RGB lighting left and right, but those are like not really important. I mean, maybe for gaming, if you want to get a couple of more FPS, but that's it, right? Instead of those couple of more FPSs, one can actually have this second port, and now you can do a lot with it, right? You can actually, instead of doing a wireless charging, you can actually get the power from one side and charge another device via the other port. Imagine that. You can actually connect headphone to one of them and then connect a USB via an OTC cable to the other port. So a phone with two USB ports would be amazing. Now you might say wireless connectivities, Bluetooth and such are improving, so do you need something like that? Well, I mean, not really, but then you can say, I mean, we don't need many other things either, right? We don't need even a USB port, then we can just need a charging port and that's it, and really translating by wireless. No, it's not like that, right? Via cable, many things are still faster than wireless connection and Bluetooth connection. If you have a large file, it's only you can do it in a rapid fashion via USB cable. So and the next USB version, USB 4, is gonna integrate Thunderbolt in it, right? So Thunderbolt USB 4 in Type-C connection format is becoming standard. So for the next decade, all the devices are now going to be, I mean, not all, but pretty much all, most devices going to be USB Type-C. It's going to be more common in cars, in other devices, on the sockets, on the wall, and everywhere. So if it is something that common now, and now the cables aren't even Type-C to Type-A, but just straightforward Type-C to Type-C, just like in Samsung A70, which I purchased for my mother, then it would have been great to have a second USB Type-C port on the phones. Think about it. So Galaxy Note, for example, like Galaxy Note 11, I know some people are taking notes with that pen, but do we really need a pen? All I see is people like drawing some funny pictures and such, and that's pretty much it. And many people are just, you know, typing and such. And yes, remote controller of it is great and such, but if, let's say, USB Type-C second port requires space for the circuit design and for the phone design, drop the S Pen and introduce a second port for next year's design, right? I mean, if you can do it without dropping S Pen, that's even better, but I highly doubt you can, because if it were very easy, I think phone manufacturers, while dropping the headphone jack, would have already introduced it. The fact that they haven't suggests that it's actually not easy at all to introduce that second port. But think about it. I mean, you don't need a thinner phone than that, and now the screens are getting larger, right? So there is, at least in one dimension, the length dimension, there is much more room now. And yeah, just eat a little bit into battery or something and introduce the second port and see how it goes. Nobody's doing that. People are doing all these fancy designs, but not with two USB Type-C ports. So I wonder if it is very difficult, very technologically and from a design perspective, very difficult to do that. I bet it is, because otherwise it would have been done before. But maybe in the future we'll see something like that. So yeah, I'm eager to see a phone with two USB ports, and if there is some high-end phone like that, I would buy it, because the possibilities and the practicality tremendously increases at the expense of the headphone jack. But yeah, you will be gaining a lot. Too bad that there isn't any.